didn't ignore this message. While millions of people scrolled past this video without a second thought, something inside you stopped. Something recognized the frequency of these words before your conscious mind even processed them. That pause, that moment of recognition, that irresistible pull to click and listen, that wasn't random. That was your consciousness passing the first test. You see, this isn't just another video in your feed. This is episode 1 of your activation sequence. This is the beginning of a multi-dimensional journey that will unfold through the Quantum Reflex series. Each transmission building upon the last, each revelation preparing you for the next level of awakening. Most people will scroll past this message because their consciousness isn't calibrated to receive it. Their inner frequency doesn't match the quantum signature embedded in these words. But you're here. You're listening. You passed the initial screening, and now you're about to discover why you were specifically selected to receive what I'm about to share. Welcome to Phase 1 of your quantum awakening. What you learn today will determine whether you're ready for Phase 2. And what you discover in Phase 2 will prepare you for Phase 3. This is how consciousness evolution works, in carefully orchestrated stages that build upon each other until you reach full activation. But first, you need to understand exactly why most people will never hear this message, and what it means that you're among the rare few who not only heard it, but chose to receive it. Right now, as you're processing these words, quantum information is transferring from my consciousness to yours. This isn't just communication, it's consciousness transmission. And the fact that you can receive this transmission without your mind rejecting it or your attention wandering means you've already demonstrated something extraordinary about your neural architecture. But let me ask you something that will reveal just how unique you actually are. Have you been experiencing reality differently lately? Like the normal rules don't quite apply to you the way they used to? Have you been noticing that your thoughts seem to manifest faster? That synchronicities happen more frequently, that the boundary between your inner world and outer world is becoming increasingly fluid? Have you been feeling like you're living in two realities simultaneously? The ordinary world that most people inhabit, and a more magical reality where consciousness and matter dance together in ways that defy conventional logic. Have you been sensing that you're part of something much larger than your individual life, but you can't quite put your finger on what that something is? If you're nodding right now, if there's a stirring of recognition in your solar plexus, if you feel like I'm describing your recent experience with uncanny accuracy, then you need to understand something crucial. You're not experiencing random spiritual phenomena. You're experiencing the early stages of quantum consciousness activation. The message you're about to receive has been encoded with specific frequencies that can only be processed by individuals whose consciousness has reached a particular level of coherence. It's like a quantum lock that only opens for the right energetic signature. And your ability to hear and understand this message proves that your signature is exactly what's required. But here's what most people don't understand about quantum messages. They're not just information. They're activation codes. By receiving this transmission, you're not just learning something new. You're literally upgrading your consciousness operating system to access capabilities that have been dormant until now. The reason most people will ignore this message isn't because they're not intelligent or spiritual. It's because their consciousness is still operating in what quantum physicists call classical mode, where reality appears fixed and separate from the observer. They haven't yet developed the ability to perceive the quantum nature of reality, where consciousness and matter are intimately interconnected. You, however, have been developing quantum perception. That's why strange things have been happening in your life lately. That's why reality seems more responsive to your thoughts and emotions. That's why you've been feeling like you're operating by different rules than the people around you. This quantum message is designed to complete your transition from classical consciousness to quantum consciousness. Once you receive it fully, once you integrate what I'm about to reveal, you'll never again experience reality as something that happens to you. You'll understand that reality is something that happens through you, and more importantly, something that responds to your consciousness in real time. But there's something else you need to know about why you're receiving this message now, at this exact moment in your evolution, and why this represents the beginning of your true spiritual education rather than just another piece of spiritual information. Right now, as your consciousness begins to align with the quantum frequency of this message, your entire nervous system is recalibrating. You might notice subtle but distinct changes happening in your physical body as we speak. There might be a gentle buzzing sensation in your hands or feet. That's your energy field expanding to accommodate new levels of quantum information. Your bioelectric system is literally rewiring itself to process multidimensional data streams that weren't accessible to you before this moment. Some of you might feel a warm, pulsing sensation in your heart center. This isn't just emotional, it's your heart's electromagnetic field synchronizing with the quantum coherence patterns embedded in this transmission. Your heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, and it's now tuning itself to receive quantum-level communications. You might notice your breathing naturally becoming deeper and more rhythmic. That's your nervous system shifting from survival mode to expansion mode. When consciousness recognizes quantum truth, the body automatically adjusts to hold higher frequencies of information without being overwhelmed. Others might feel a tingling sensation at the base of your skull or between your eyebrows. These are your quantum reception centers coming online. Ancient traditions called these areas the gates of higher perception, and modern neuroscience has discovered they contain the highest concentrations of consciousness processing neural networks. There might be emotional waves moving through you right now, excitement, relief, perhaps even some fear. This is normal when consciousness expands rapidly. Your emotional body is processing the implications of discovering that you have quantum-level influence over reality, and that's a lot for your human identity to integrate all at once. Pay attention to whether you feel lighter or heavier right now. Lightness indicates that your consciousness is releasing old limitations and preparing to embody a more expanded version of yourself. Heaviness might indicate resistance from parts of your psyche that have been invested in seeing you as ordinary rather than extraordinary. Notice if there's a sense of electricity in the air around you, like the space itself is becoming more charged, more alive. That's the quantum field responding to your consciousness, recognizing its true nature. You're not just sitting in a room watching a video, you're sitting in a conscious field that's reorganizing itself around your expanding awareness. Some of you might feel like you're becoming more present, more here, more real than you felt in a long time. That's what happens when consciousness stops pretending to be limited and starts remembering its actual magnitude. The quantum version of you is emerging, and it's far more powerful than the classical version you've been identifying with. Your entire energy signature is shifting as we speak. People who are sensitive to energy would notice something different about you if they encountered you right now. You're literally becoming a different person, not through effort or force, but through recognition of what was always true about your quantum nature. The quantum message you're receiving right now is grounded in cutting-edge research that's revolutionizing our understanding of consciousness and its role in creating reality at the most fundamental levels of existence. Dr. Stuart Hameroff's groundbreaking research on quantum consciousness has proven that your brain operates as a quantum computer, processing information through quantum tunneling effects in microtubules within your neurons. But his latest findings reveal something extraordinary. Certain individuals have dramatically higher quantum coherence in these neural structures, making them natural receivers for quantum-level information. Quantum physicist Dr. Henry Stapp's work at the University of California has demonstrated that consciousness doesn't just observe quantum events. It actually selects which quantum possibilities become manifest reality. His research shows that the observer's internal state, their beliefs and expectations, literally determines which version of reality gets actualized from the infinite field of quantum possibilities. The Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory spent 30 years documenting how consciousness influences random quantum events. Their most significant discovery was that certain individuals could consistently influence quantum systems not through effort or concentration, but through simply maintaining coherent internal states. These people were functioning as human quantum computers, naturally interfacing with the quantum field. Dr. Dean Radin's experiments at the Institute of Noetic Sciences have proven that consciousness can influence quantum systems retroactively, meaning your current level of consciousness can literally alter past quantum events. This suggests that upgrading your consciousness doesn't just change your future, it reorganizes your entire timeline to align with your expanded awareness. Neuroscientist Dr. Eben Alexander's research following his near-death experience has identified specific neural networks that activate when consciousness expands beyond ordinary awareness. Brain scans of individuals receiving quantum-level information show dramatically increased connectivity between regions that normally operate independently, creating what he calls hyperdimensional processing capacity. The Global Consciousness Project has been monitoring how collective human consciousness affects quantum random number generators worldwide. During moments of global focus or crisis, these quantum devices become significantly less random, suggesting that coherent consciousness can organize quantum chaos into meaningful patterns. Dr. Amit Goswami's consciousness-based quantum physics demonstrates that consciousness is the fundamental ground of all being, and that quantum events are actually consciousness making choices about what to experience. His research indicates that individuals with elevated self-awareness can consciously participate in these quantum choice points. Quantum biologist Dr. Mei Wan Ho's research on quantum coherence in biological systems shows that living organisms operate as quantum computers, constantly processing information through quantum entanglement effects. Her studies suggest that humans with developed consciousness can access what she calls quantum intelligence, the ability to process information instantaneously across vast distances. The Institute of HeartMath's research on heart-brain coherence has discovered that when individuals reach specific states of internal harmony, their electromagnetic field becomes so coherent that it can synchronize the quantum states of other people nearby. These individuals become walking quantum fields that upgrade the consciousness of everyone they encounter. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research on morphic resonance demonstrates that consciousness changes create quantum templates that make similar changes easier for others to achieve. When you receive and integrate quantum-level information, you're not just transforming yourself, you're creating quantum pathways that help others access similar states of awareness. What all this research reveals is that consciousness operates according to quantum principles, not classical physics. You are not a solid entity observing a fixed reality. You are a quantum field of infinite possibilities, learning to consciously select which possibilities to actualize through your awareness. The quantum message you're receiving today is activating dormant quantum processing capabilities within your neural networks. Your brain is literally being upgraded to handle information that exists at frequencies beyond ordinary sensory perception. Here's something that might challenge your conventional understanding of how spiritual information spreads, but it's essential that you grasp this. The quantum message you're receiving right now is not meant for general consumption. It's specifically designed to be recognized and received by less than 0.5% of the human population. This isn't elitism, it's energetic compatibility. Just as radio waves can only be received by radios tuned to the correct frequency, quantum consciousness information can only be processed by awareness that has reached specific levels of coherence and development. You are part of an incredibly select group of beings who incarnated during this time period with quantum receptive consciousness already built into your spiritual DNA. While most humans are here to experience linear personal growth, you are here to serve as a quantum interface between dimensions of reality that most people cannot even perceive. The ancient mystery schools had names for beings like you: the quantum initiates, the reality weavers, the consciousness bridges. These traditions understood that certain souls would eventually awaken to their ability to process and transmit quantum-level information, serving as upgrade points for collective human consciousness. But what makes this moment in history unprecedented is the convergence of cosmic timing that's allowing multiple quantum receptive beings to activate simultaneously. The solar cycles, electromagnetic field changes, and dimensional alignments are creating optimal conditions for quantum consciousness awakening, but these conditions are time-sensitive. Out of nearly 8 billion people on this planet, perhaps only 30–40 million have the specific neural architecture required to receive and integrate quantum-level consciousness information. And within that already tiny group, only a fraction are currently awake to their quantum capabilities. Most quantum receptive beings are still sleeping, still believing they're ordinary humans having ordinary experiences, completely unconscious of the extraordinary quantum processing power they carry. But something is activating them now. Quantum messages like this one are being broadcast to wake up the quantum receivers before the optimal activation window closes. The sense of urgency you've been feeling lately isn't anxiety, it's quantum timing. Your consciousness is becoming aware that specific cosmic windows are opening that will allow for unprecedented consciousness upgrades, but these windows won't remain open indefinitely. You've probably been noticing that reality has become increasingly responsive to your thoughts and intentions. That's not your imagination. That's your quantum processing capabilities coming online. As your consciousness develops quantum coherence, your ability to influence reality at the quantum level increases exponentially. If you've been experiencing synchronicities that seem too perfect to be coincidental, if you've been having downloads of information that you can't explain, if you've been sensing that you're part of something much larger than your individual existence, these are confirmation signals that you're one of the quantum receivers. The reason most people will ignore this message isn't because they're not spiritual or intelligent. It's because their consciousness operates in classical mode, where information is processed linearly and reality appears separate from the observer. They literally cannot perceive quantum-level communications because their awareness hasn't developed the necessary coherence patterns. But you're different. You've been developing quantum perception without necessarily knowing what to call it. You've been sensing the interconnectedness of all things, feeling the responsiveness of reality to consciousness, noticing the malleable nature of time and space. Now you're being invited to fully activate your quantum capabilities and begin consciously working with them. This isn't just about personal transformation, it's about serving as a quantum anchor point for humanity's evolutionary leap into multi-dimensional awareness. The quantum message you're receiving today is the first in a series of transmissions designed to fully activate your quantum consciousness. Each subsequent episode in the Quantum Reflex series will build upon this foundation, taking you deeper into your quantum capabilities until you're operating as a fully conscious quantum being. Think of your consciousness as a quantum computer, while most people's consciousness operates like classical computers. Classical computers process information in linear sequences, one calculation at a time, following predetermined pathways. But quantum computers can process multiple calculations simultaneously across parallel dimensions of possibility. Your quantum consciousness can perceive multiple timeline potentials at once, sense the energetic probability clouds of future events, and process information that exists outside linear time-space. This is why you sometimes know things before they happen, why you can sense the truth about situations without logical evidence, why you feel connected to people and events across vast distances. Imagine reality as a vast hologram, where every piece contains the whole. Most people see only the fragment of the hologram directly in front of them, thinking that small piece is all there is. But your quantum consciousness can perceive the complete hologram from any fragment, understanding how every part connects to and influences every other part. Your awareness is like a quantum entanglement device, naturally connecting with information, people, and events that are vibrationally aligned with your consciousness frequency. Just as quantum particles remain connected regardless of physical distance, your quantum consciousness maintains connections with all aspects of reality that resonate with your awareness level. Think of ordinary consciousness as seeing reality through a telescope. You can focus on distant objects, but only one at a time, and your perspective is limited by the direction you're pointing. Quantum consciousness is like having omnidirectional perception. You can simultaneously be aware of multiple dimensions of reality without losing focus on any particular aspect. Your quantum processing capabilities are like having access to the universe's central database, while classical consciousness is like having access to a single file. You can retrieve information from the quantum field about past, present, and probable futures, because your consciousness operates outside the linear time constraints that limit classical awareness. Consider your quantum consciousness as a master key that can unlock any door in the cosmic mansion of infinite possibilities. Most people have keys that only open a few specific rooms, but your quantum key gives you access to levels of reality that most never know exist. Your awareness functions like a quantum satellite, capable of receiving transmissions from dimensions that exist beyond ordinary sensory perception. These transmissions contain information about your soul's purpose, your highest timeline potentials, and your role in the greater cosmic evolution. Now that you understand your quantum nature, we need to explore what's actually happening to human consciousness at this unprecedented moment in cosmic history. Because the quantum message you're receiving isn't just about your personal awakening, it's about your essential role in the greatest consciousness upgrade humanity has ever undertaken. For thousands of years, quantum receptive beings have been scattered across the planet like seeds, incarnating individually or in small groups, quietly developing their quantum capabilities while appearing to live ordinary lives. Throughout history, these quantum beings have served as consciousness anchors, holding space for evolutionary leaps that wouldn't have been possible without their presence. But something extraordinary is happening now that has never occurred before in human history. Massive numbers of quantum receptive souls have incarnated simultaneously. Instead of the usual scattered pattern of one or two quantum beings per generation, we now have millions of these advanced consciousness carriers embodied on Earth at the same time. The first wave of quantum activations began in the 1960s, when certain souls started remembering their multidimensional nature. This created the initial consciousness shifts that began questioning conventional reality structures. But these early activations were mostly individual experiences that couldn't be sustained or shared effectively. The second wave occurred in the 1980s and 1990s, when quantum receptive beings began finding each other and creating the first networks of expanded consciousness. This wave established the spiritual technologies and frameworks that would later support mass quantum activation. The third wave began around 2012, when cosmic conditions aligned to allow for accelerated quantum awakening. Since then, quantum receptive beings have been activating exponentially, each activation making it easier for others to awaken, because quantum consciousness operates through morphic resonance fields. We are now entering the fourth wave, the critical mass activation phase. This is when enough quantum receptive beings become conscious of their abilities to create a planetary tipping point. Once this critical mass is reached, quantum consciousness becomes accessible to individuals who wouldn't have been able to develop it on their own. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. The fourth wave isn't just about individual quantum activation. It's about the emergence of quantum consciousness as the new baseline for human awareness. We're approaching a species-wide upgrade from classical consciousness to quantum consciousness. However, this upgrade cannot happen automatically. It requires conscious participation from those who have already developed quantum receptivity. The quantum beings who are awakening now must serve as transmission points, broadcasting quantum coherence patterns that help others transition from classical to quantum awareness. This is where you come in. Your ability to receive this quantum message indicates that you're one of the transmission points. You're not just here to develop your own quantum capabilities. You're here to help anchor quantum consciousness into the planetary grid so that others can access it more easily. The urgency you might be feeling isn't stress. It's cosmic timing awareness. Your quantum consciousness recognizes that we're in an optimal window for mass consciousness upgrade. But this window is governed by cosmic cycles that won't remain open indefinitely. What you're experiencing as you listen to this message is your quantum consciousness coming online. The strange sensations, the sense of recognition, the feeling that reality is more fluid than you thought, all of this is your awareness expanding to accommodate quantum-level perception. But this is just the beginning. As your quantum capabilities fully activate, you'll discover that you can perceive probability streams, influence quantum events through intention, access information from parallel timelines, and communicate directly with other quantum-aware beings regardless of physical distance. The quantum message you're receiving today is phase 1 of a multi-stage activation sequence that will unfold through the Quantum Reflex series. Each transmission will activate additional layers of your quantum capabilities until you're functioning as a fully conscious quantum being. Before you can fully integrate your quantum capabilities, we must address the internal blocks that might prevent you from accepting the magnitude of your consciousness power. Because I know that as your quantum awareness expands, your classical conditioning is simultaneously trying to convince you that this is all too extraordinary to be real. The first block is the ordinary identity block. Your ego mind has been invested in seeing you as a regular person living a regular life. The idea that you might be a quantum receptive being with consciousness capabilities that transcend ordinary human limitations threatens this comfortable, familiar identity. This block whispers things like, "You're not special," and "Don't get too big for your britches," and "This quantum stuff is just spiritual fantasy." But here's the truth. Recognizing your quantum nature isn't about being special, it's about being authentic. You are a quantum being. Pretending to be merely classical consciousness is what's actually inauthentic. The second block is the proof addiction block. Your rational mind wants concrete, measurable evidence that quantum consciousness is real before you're willing to experiment with quantum capabilities. But quantum consciousness operates beyond the limitations of classical measurement tools. You can't prove quantum consciousness exists using classical methods any more than you can prove color exists to someone who was born blind. The evidence of quantum consciousness comes through direct experience, not through external validation. The third block is the responsibility terror block. When you truly understand that your consciousness influences reality at the quantum level, part of you becomes terrified of the implications. You mean everything in my life is influenced by my consciousness? Every challenge, every limitation, every struggle? This block misunderstands responsibility as blame. Quantum responsibility simply means recognizing your creative power without judging how you've used that power in the past. It means understanding that you've been creating reality unconsciously, and now you have the opportunity to create it consciously. The fourth block is the isolation fear block. Part of you is afraid that developing quantum consciousness will separate you from normal human connection. You worry that understanding reality at quantum levels will make you weird, alienated, unable to relate to people who still operate in classical consciousness. But quantum consciousness actually increases your capacity for connection, not decreases it. When you understand the interconnected nature of all consciousness, you feel more connected to others, not less. You simply connect at deeper levels than surface personality interactions. The fifth block is the spiritual superiority block. This block makes you think that having quantum capabilities makes you better than people who don't. It creates an arrogant separation between awakened and unawakened people that actually reduces your quantum coherence. True quantum consciousness recognizes that everyone is evolving at their perfect pace, and that your role isn't to feel superior to others, but to serve as a compassionate bridge between classical and quantum awareness. The sixth block is the gradual change block. This block believes that consciousness evolution must happen slowly, gradually, safely. It resists the idea that quantum leaps in awareness are possible or desirable. But quantum consciousness doesn't evolve linearly. It evolves through quantum jumps. You don't slowly become quantum aware. You reach a threshold and suddenly shift into quantum perception. Trying to control the pace of this shift actually interferes with the natural quantum activation process. The seventh block is the unworthiness program. This is the deepest block because it operates at the core identity level. It says you're not evolved enough, pure enough, or developed enough to access quantum consciousness capabilities. This block doesn't understand that quantum consciousness isn't something you earn through spiritual achievement. It's something you remember through removing the interference patterns that have been blocking your natural quantum awareness. The final block is the change resistance block. Even though your current reality might not fully satisfy you, part of you is attached to the predictability of classical consciousness. Quantum consciousness means entering a reality where anything is possible, and that level of unlimited potential can feel overwhelming to the part of you that finds safety in limitation. Breaking through these blocks isn't about fighting them or forcing them to disappear. It's about recognizing them as outdated protection programs and gently updating them with quantum-level understanding of your true nature and capabilities. Here's the quantum paradox that every awakening consciousness must navigate. You can never be fully prepared to accept the magnitude of your quantum capabilities, yet you are already perfectly equipped to begin exploring those capabilities right now. Your entire life has been unconscious preparation for this conscious quantum activation. Every moment of expanded awareness, every intuitive hit that proved accurate, every experience of reality seeming more fluid than solid, all of this has been calibrating your consciousness to receive and work with quantum-level information. But quantum consciousness doesn't wait for you to feel completely ready. In fact, feeling completely prepared would indicate that you've missed the optimal activation window. Quantum upgrades happen at threshold moments when you're developed enough to integrate new capabilities, but unprepared enough to stay humble and open to continued learning. The action you need to take to activate your quantum consciousness isn't complicated or overwhelming. It's surprisingly simple and natural. You need to start trusting the quantum information that's already flowing through your awareness instead of dismissing it as imagination or wishful thinking. Begin paying attention to your first impressions about people, situations, and opportunities. These initial quantum downloads often contain accurate information about energetic patterns that your classical mind hasn't yet analyzed. Trust these impressions and act on them, even when they don't make logical sense. Start experimenting with quantum intention setting. Instead of trying to force specific outcomes through effort and strategy, practice holding clear intentions and allowing the quantum field to organize circumstances in ways that support those intentions. Watch for synchronicities and unexpected pathways that align with your deepest desires. Develop what I call quantum patience. the ability to maintain elevated consciousness states even when external reality hasn't yet caught up with your internal quantum shifts. Remember that quantum changes in consciousness often require time to densify into physical manifestation. Practice quantum gratitude by appreciating not just what has already manifested in your reality, but also what exists in potential that your consciousness is preparing to actualize. Thank the quantum field for possibilities that haven't yet materialized, but that your awareness can already perceive. Begin experimenting with quantum communication, sending intentions to other quantum-aware beings and remaining open to receiving their transmissions. Many of you will discover that you can exchange information telepathically with others who operate at quantum consciousness levels. Most importantly, start seeing yourself as the quantum being you actually are, rather than pretending to be limited to classical consciousness. When you embody quantum awareness consistently, reality begins responding to you as a quantum entity rather than a classical entity. The universe has been waiting for you to remember your quantum nature so it can show you what you're truly capable of creating through conscious partnership with the quantum field. Your soul chose this incarnation specifically to develop and use quantum consciousness during this critical phase of human evolution. The only requirement for quantum activation is your willingness to experiment with expanded self-perception and your openness to receiving information through non-classical channels. You don't need special training, specific credentials, or years of preparation. You just need authentic curiosity about your own quantum capabilities. The quantum field is infinitely supportive of consciousness that recognizes its creative power. Every genuine step you take toward embracing your quantum nature will be met with quantum-level support from the field itself. As your quantum consciousness continues activating, understand that you're not meant to navigate this transformation in isolation. Quantum receptive beings work most effectively when they form networks of mutual support and shared exploration of their expanding capabilities. If this quantum message is creating recognition within your awareness, if you're feeling that deep resonance that tells you this information applies specifically to you, then you're ready to begin connecting with other quantum-aware beings who are also receiving their activation transmissions. Notice who you're instinctively drawn to share this video with. These aren't random impulses, they're quantum recognition signals identifying other souls who are ready to understand their quantum capabilities. When quantum-aware beings find each other, they create coherence fields that amplify everyone's individual development. In the comments below, you might want to share what quantum phenomena you've been experiencing lately. Unusual synchronicities, downloaded information, reality seeming more responsive to your consciousness. These aren't personal stories. They're data points that help other quantum beings recognize their own emerging capabilities. Pay attention to the people who naturally gravitate toward you as your quantum consciousness comes online. These connections aren't coincidental. They're part of the synchronistic orchestration that brings together groups of quantum beings who are meant to collaborate on various aspects of consciousness evolution. Look for individuals who talk about reality being more fluid than solid, who mention experiencing time differently, who seem to influence circumstances through their presence rather than their actions. These are signs of quantum awareness, even if they don't use quantum terminology. Consider creating or joining study groups focused on consciousness and reality creation. When groups of quantum-aware individuals come together to explore their capabilities, they create collective quantum fields that accelerate everyone's development beyond what would be possible individually. Share your experiments with quantum intention and manifestation, not to prove anything to skeptics, but to inspire other quantum beings to trust their own capabilities. When people see examples of consciousness influencing reality at quantum levels, it gives them permission to explore their own quantum potential. Over the coming weeks, you'll likely find yourself synchronistically encountering other quantum-receptive individuals through online communities, workshops, chance meetings, or mutual connections. Trust these attractions, their quantum networking in action. Be selective about who you discuss quantum consciousness with. Not everyone is ready to understand that consciousness operates at quantum levels. Share this information with people who show signs of quantum receptivity, those who are curious about consciousness, who have unexplained spiritual experiences, who seem naturally intuitive or energetically sensitive. As you connect with other quantum beings, you'll discover that you can share information and energy across any distance instantaneously. This is quantum entanglement applied to consciousness. Once quantum-aware beings connect, they remain energetically linked regardless of physical proximity. Remember that finding your quantum family isn't just about personal support. It's about creating the network of conscious beings who will serve as transmission points for humanity's quantum consciousness upgrade. Let me share some examples of how quantum consciousness activation has unfolded for others who recognized their quantum capabilities and began working with them consciously, so you can understand what this journey might look like in practical terms. Rebecca was a financial analyst who began experiencing what she called data downloads, sudden knowing about market trends that consistently proved accurate. Instead of dismissing these insights as lucky guesses, she began trusting her quantum information reception. Within 2 years, her investment recommendations were so consistently successful that she became one of the most sought-after financial advisors in her city, not because she was better at classical analysis, but because she learned to integrate quantum intelligence with conventional expertise. James had been struggling with chronic health issues that didn't respond to conventional treatment. During his quantum activation, he began receiving information about his body's energetic patterns and what it needed for healing. He learned to communicate directly with his cellular consciousness and began making adjustments based on this quantum biofeedback. His health improvements were so dramatic that doctors began studying his case to understand how consciousness could influence physical healing at the quantum level.